So here at MAID, we have several classes of competition. Uh, there are Scout class, which is the youngest, which is typically middle school students. And then we have the Ranger class, which is typically high school students. And that's what we're doing here at the regional competition. And then in the international competition, we have the Explorers class. And very often kids will start off, students will start off in the Scout class, and they'll move up over the years. They'll move up to Ranger class, and then if they stay with it, they'll move up to Explorers class. And something we're really proud of is that this MATE program is an amazing thing. It's many people have gone through the program, and some of them stay with it even after MATE. They actually stay with us and become judges and mentors. So the program's been going a long time. So especially when we come to the international competition, I meet people that I met years ago when they were just a beginning student with these vehicles. And then some of them even go on, one of the things we hope is they might have a career in the marine field. They might actually be working at a commercial company making remote operated vehicles.
Can I just interject for a second?
She's going to interject with you. Oh, okay.
Marty?
Yeah, Marty Klein.
Thank you, Marty. So right now what we have is the Scout area, and as you can see, we have one of the missions beginning. That first part, as you see to your left, we have the Titanic turtles, and they're currently going for, looks like to be the rock where they have to lift up, and once they lift that up, they have to bring it up to the surface, which once they do that, they get automatic points. Under that rock that they're going for, I believe, right? No. What are they going for? Would be, basically they would earn their points. And to the right, we have another team going, which is Mission Station 2, and we have the cross rips going on.
This is Christina with me. Christina, introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi everyone, I'm Christina, and basically I am a volunteer at this competition, just trying to kind of explain what's going on, and basically for more of the general understanding purposes.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We have one of the nice things about the MATE program, that a lot of people involved, a whole lot of volunteers. There are parents, there are just local scientists, engineers. We're very gratified. A lot of companies help us out with donations. And so there's divers in the pool, and everyone here is a volunteer. We're very grateful that people come along. Often parents come along with their children, and they root for the students, and all of us involved, we're like one giant family. And one thing I have to confess, I've been doing this a long time, I get attached to the students, and so I fret about myself. Is their vehicle going to work? Is everything going to be fine? And sometimes things aren't fine. Sometimes they go wrong. Sometimes the vehicle will flood, or you'll get a short circuit. But one of the things you're here to learn, and very often in engineering and science, when you see things on TV, everything's all set up for you. It all works, it all runs. But in real life, especially working on a ship, things can fail. And so the students have to learn on the fly. Just a few minutes ago, I was in the cafeteria, and a connector broke on one of the vehicles, and the kids just went to work. They went into the gear, they saw that connector, and they fixed it. So that's something you learn to do under pressure and work under pressure.
I think they're trying. So as you see on the screen, it's basically the team is trying to receive their ROVs, their ROV, and basically the team that is trying to bring up their ROV earlier was the Titanic Turtles. One of them has started, but the other one's setting up. So as you can see on the screen, the ROV is going for another mission. We will see shortly what mission they're going, their task they're going for. On the other side, there's a reset of the field, and it seems as if they are going, the task that they are going for is to drop a little, so the task they're going for is ensuring public safety, dam inspection, and repair. This is up to 50 points, and currently right now the Titanic, the Titanic Turtles are going for basically insertion of grout into the 4 voids underneath the dam. So that is 5 points each, a total of 20 points. If they're able to place 1 in each of the 4 squares, they get a full 20 points. If they place 1, they get 5 points. And if they place 2, 1 in each square, they get 10 points. If they place 1 in each of the 3 squares, they get 15 points. And if they accidentally place 2 in 1 square, that only counts as 5 points.
So over the years, we've had different rules and procedures. Everyone running the program works every year to try to make it better. And usually, in the early days, the students got 1 shot at the tasks. But we've evolved, and this year, typically when you launch it the first time, you learn things. Something might fail or something might leak. So we have a new setup now where they actually have 2 turns to go in the pool and 2 turns to get a score and hopefully do better the second time.
Steve, do you want to go over to the Ranger real quick just to do a quick roundabout so we can just say that this is the Ranger side? I don't know who's on the depth field right now, but we can just say that and kind of figure out. So the camera's turning over. We do have another side of the pool. So what you saw was the shallow side, which was the scout side. This is currently, we're heading over to the more deep end of the pool, and that is the more side of the Ranger side. And we definitely have 2 teams going and kind of setting up, basically, kind of setting up their ROVs to complete the given tasks. So if you just want to take a...
When you first launch these things, there's a moment of tension. You've been working on it, on this vehicle, maybe for weeks, months even. You've thought about it, you've built it. You maybe stayed up at night and fixed this and fixed that. But there's this tremendous moment of truth when you're here at the pool, you're here at the competition, and the world is watching you. Your parents may be watching you, your teacher may be watching you, your fellow teammates are watching you, and there's this moment of truth when you actually plunk that thing into the water and you kind of hold your breath, and what's going to happen? Is the thing gonna move ahead, or the thruster's going to work? Is it going to float? And I've been around long enough, so you see all kind of scenarios. Sometimes it's just awful. The thing will just sink to the bottom of the pool, or it'll sit still and won't go forward. Typically, though, the students have tested these things, and typically they do work. But there's this moment where everyone kind of holds their breath, and I see some of this going on today. There's a student holding a vehicle at the side of the pool, and his or her heart is probably racing, wondering what's going to happen. So it's a tense moment, and one you'll remember.
on this screen, you see an ROV in the water. So basically what they do is they have to sink their ROV to get all the air out to ensure that the ROV will stay underwater. And before the competition, you're supposed to hold it at arm's length, essentially, kind of keeping it in the range, not to get like a head start. I don't know if they're going for an actual mission. So it looks as if the ranger side is going for task 2, which is maintaining a healthy waterways, and you can get up to 90 points. And currently it looks as if they're going for the monitoring water quality, which you can get up to 30 points. So basically in that little circular container, it actually holds 2 tubes. One is a pH of the water for tube with water, which measures the pH, and the other one is a phosphorus tube, which you measure the phosphorus levels. So what the team is supposed to do is that they're supposed to bring that up to the surface, take those 2 tubes out, measure them with a pH strip or a phosphorus pH strip, and compare. And then they're supposed to write it down to ensure that the levels are safe and are close to range. So what close to range is basically 1 point away from the actual pH range or number. So they're currently ascending. Looks like they actually have that tube in hand. So we currently switched over to the scout side, and it looks like one of our teams are going, and the team that looks like is having their ROV in the water is basically Sandwich Knights, I believe, on the right side currently right now. And we will see very shortly for what task they are going for. So we currently switched screens to the ranger side. And as you can see, the ROV looks like as if it's descending and trying to grab or complete another task. So basically, let me explain a little bit about the tasks and what tasks there are. So basically, before the ROV hits the pool, they actually go through a safety check and setup, which is a total of 10 points if they pass. They also get bonus points for the size. So if they're within a certain size limit, they will get bonus points for that. And once they get on the pool, there's a whole nother check and setup. And once they go in, they can complete the tasks in any order they choose. So listed is the first task, which is basically, as I have said before, is in ensuring public safety, dam inspection, and repair, and they can earn up to 50 points. So basically, the first one is kind of repairing damaged trash rack, and they can receive up to 30 points for that. The next one is inserting grout into 4 voids underneath the dam, and they can receive up to a total of 20 points. Second task is maintaining healthy waterways up to 90 points. So basically monitoring the water quality, determining habitat diversity, transporting and releasing trout fry, restoring fish habitat, and then they go on to task 3, which is preserving history. Basically, they can earn up to 60 points, receiving a Civil War era cannon, which could be buried deep under the sand, and this is just kind of a trial. And basically so basically we're back at the scout side, and what the ROV is doing right now is it's receiving a rock, and underneath the rock will be various species of insects where they have to identify up on the surface. So just lifting up that rock already gains them about, I believe, 5 points. Yes, lifting up the rock from the bottom is 5 points. Returning the rock to the top of the surface with the species under there is another 10 points. And being able to identify the different types of benthic species underneath the rock is another 5 points. So if they can, they've already lifted up the rock, so that's an automatic 5 points. So if they can return it to the surface, they will receive another 10 points. And once they have a handbook that they can use to identify the species on the rock, they will receive another 5 points, which is a total of 30 points that they could receive. Currently, the ROV is trying to ascend up to the surface. The team that is currently doing that are the Sandwich Knights. So it seems as if they are having slight. We just switched over to the Ranger side, and is this a new team? And it seems as if this team is trying to go for the second task, which is maintaining healthy waterways, and they can receive up to 90 points, and they're slowly ascending with the container of the 2 vials that contain our water sample as well as our phosphorus sample. And on this side is the scout side, which they are also trying to complete task 2, which is maintaining healthy waterways. And they're also trying to bring up the capsule that contains our 2 water quality tubes. Like I said before, one contains our water sample and the other contains a phosphorus sample. They're actually where are they trying? Where are they trying to live? What are those circular things? So there's a correction on that. I believe they're trying to, instead of grabbing the monitoring water quality capsule, they are trying to actually remove the 2 degraded rubber tires, and that is 5 points each, so they can receive a total of 10 points if they are successfully able to remove both of the degraded rubber tires. So they're able to pick up one of the degraded rubber tires and are slowly ascending to the surface. I don't see the other rubber tire, so kind of currently assuming that they have already picked up that first one. And it seems that they are able to officially pick up that second one, I believe. So they currently hopefully receive their total of 10 points. Like I said, the teams are allowed to complete the task out of order. So currently, it looks as if they're going back to that first task to try to remove the damaged screen of the trash rack. Oh, it seems like they were able to grab it. Now they have to, now they have to lift it up to the surface, and they are able to receive 10 points if they are able to complete that task. So they're slowly ascending. Careful not to drop that damaged screen. And they have successfully brought it back up to the surface. So there's a total of 10 points. So what they're doing now is they're going on to the next task in that whole section, which is repairing the damaged trash rack. So what they've done is they have removed the damaged screen of the trash rack. Now they're going to try to install a new one. And if they can successfully do that, that's a total of another 10 points that they receive. So once they have successfully installed the new screen, they are going, basically actually starting another task. And this one is So this one is actually maintaining healthy waterways. So I believe they're going to do a attempt or at lifting up the rock. So basically they're doing determining habitat diversity, which they can receive up to 30 points. So if they are able to just lift the rock from the bottom, which they are currently trying to do, and are halfway there, they receive an automatic 5 points. And if they are able to actually return the rock to the surface, they receive 10 points. And if they are able to identify the species that is under the rock, they will receive another 5 points. So that is basically 20 points right there. To be able to receive up to 30 points, so they have to actually have already recorded the temperature, the pH, phosphate, and the species on their data sheet that they are given. If they have recorded all 4 data points, they receive 10 points. 2 to 3 data points, they receive 5 points, and 0 points if they have fewer. Hello? Oh, yeah. It's working. Turn it down. Got it. Okay. So they're still kind of trying to lift up the rock, which they're kind of halfway there. It's still, there's a portion that's still on the bottom. They need to fully be able to lift up the rock to gain 5 points. And it seems as if time is up, so they have removed their ROV. So basically we're gonna head over to this is the scout side, and they just started their mission. And the teams that have started are, hold on one second. So on mission station 1, which is gonna be on your left side, is Project Octagon. And mission station 2, which is gonna be on your right side, looking at the screen, is gonna be Titanic Turtles. And they have just started their mission. And I apologize, I'm going to rephrase that. It's only one team that is on your left side, which is you're kind of seeing right now on your screen, and that is Project Octagon. And it looks as if they are heading straight for the very first task, which is basically ensuring public safety, dam inspection and repair. They can receive up to 50 points. Correct me if I'm... And they are trying to remove the damaged screen of the trash rack, and it seems as if they have dropped that screen. And they would have received 10 points if they're able to bring it up to the surface. So they're doing a reattempt at trying to get the screen. They're slowly ascending up. Careful not to drop that screen. And wait for it, wait for it. They're slowly, and they have successfully grabbed the damaged screen. The next task, if they decide to go for it, they will be replacing that damaged screen. And yes, they're going to be replacing that damaged screen with a new screen, and they will be moving it close to its original spot. So they'll receive another 10 points for installing a new screen. So they've started their mission off with initial 20 points. And they now just need to drop their new screen. It seems like the driver is trying to figure that out. seems like they're having a little bit of trouble, but they have it in the right position. So all they have to do is just to drop that screen. Seems that they are ascending up again, having second thoughts maybe. So they're going at it again, trying to install that new screen. And they have been able to release the screen from their clutches, but now they're trying to position it in the correct position. And as you can see right there, their ROV is in the water. Currently, they have it close, basically only up, wrist up, well, risk deep. And so they're keeping it close before the mission starts. It's basically the ROV, as you can see, they have a light fixture on the top to allow them to see much clearer in the water because they have a screen and a camera that helps them see underwater. Now, the thing about this is that they're not allowed to interact at all with each other. And so, as you can see, the ROV is slowly descending. And so, we're on the scout side, and they're basically what they're doing right now is they're completing another task, and it's degraded rubber tires. And that task is task 2, maintaining healthy waterways, receiving up to 90 points. And they are successfully able to grab that first rubber tire and retrieve it up to the surface. They are making they're making another attempt to retrieve another rubber tire. And if they are able to retrieve 2, then they get a total of 10 points. And it's 5 points each. So they're moving carefully to pick up the degraded rubber tire, and they have successfully done that. Whoop, whoop. So now they're slowly ascending up to the surface, making sure not to drop that rubber tire, because if they drop it, then they have to go back down and grab it again. That wastes time because these missions are timed. Technically 15-minute intervals, and they have successfully retrieved the rubber tire. So they have successfully gained another 10 points to what they had before. So Project Octagon team is moving to the next task, which looks like they are trying to retrieve the water and phosphorus samples, which they have successfully picked up. And once it's to the surface, they have to take out the 2 vials that are inside of that container, measure the pH levels, and this one is also a continuation of task 2, which is monitoring water quality, and that they can receive up to 30 points. Measuring the pH of the water sample and measuring the phosphorus levels of the water sample gets 5 points each, so a total of 10 points if they are able to do that. And they have successfully retrieved the water samples and are currently in the process of measuring the water samples. We are currently back on the ranger side, and it seems that the team is slowly trying to get their ROV underwater. So the ROV is slowly descending. And we will see in a moment what task they are going for. So basically we are back on the scout side with Team Project Octagon. And they are ascending, so it seems as if they have something in their clutches. They are placing their ROV back in the water. So we're going to go on to the other side of the scouts. And there's an ROV in the water, so it looks as if they're reaching for, excuse our diver, it's he's right there. But it seems as if they are trying to complete the task of removing the damaged screen. And they are carefully trying to grab they're currently repositioning themselves to be able to hook on to either the damaged reef or the degraded tire. And it seems as if they do have it hooked or is trying to get the ROV into a position to hook onto the degraded rubber tire. So this is the ranger side, and we have 2 ROVs underwater currently. So currently the team is going for, looks as if they are going for task 2, which is basically the maintaining healthy waterways, and they can receive up to 90 points. They're currently going for the capsule that holds their water sample that they're going to have to measure the pH of, as well as their water phosphorus sample, which they're going to have to measure the amount of phosphorus inside of that sample. Retrieved their capsule that holds the 2 samples and slowly ascending up to the surface. And as you can see, there is another team that has just entered the pool with their ROV. but this team is slowly ascending to the top to retrieve their samples. And almost there. They almost retrieved the sample, slowly going closer to the pool surface. But on a side note, the other team has officially retrieved their water sample and are now going to measure the water sample and is re-descending their ROV into the water. Now, you see that line, that's the tether that will allow the team to lower their ROV as well as retrieve their ROV. Now, if in any case and point of time, if there is a tug on that tether or a pull purposely, there will be, I believe, an initial warning. And then a second time, they will be disqualified from the match for trying to pull up their ROV. So, as you can see, an ROV from a team is descending, getting ready to complete another section of a task. And that's one of our divers resetting a field for a next mission. So it seems like this ROV is trying to drop something, which yet in one of the squares, and yes, that is another task.
So we've had a good morning. We've learned a lot. There's just one vehicle coming out now. So it's typical of working in ocean vehicles. There's some triumphs and some disappointments. And we're seeing all of that range of emotions that one of the vehicles just sat at the surface and didn't want to go down. And so there was a question, is it too buoyant, or should it drive itself down? And it turns out the vehicle is meant to be buoyant, a little bit buoyant, unless the thrusters are going. So their problem was with something to do with the thrusters, either the power or the controls. So they're, while other people are having lunch, they'll probably be sitting around and shaking their heads and saying, what's not working?
Martin, could you please explain to us what what buoyancy is, and for the viewers to know, kind of?
Yes. Well, these vehicles, they go in water, and their job is to go under the water and do some task. And that task might be picking something up, making a measurement of something, doing a sampling of something. So they've got a whole series of tasks that they're supposed to do. And it's tricky. An underwater vehicle, it has to dive, but it has to, if nothing's happening, you want it to float a little bit. Floating is buoyancy. And there's many years ago, this guy Archimedes figured out that an object in the water it'll displace a certain amount of water, and that'll cause it to float. So, for example, boats are designed to float because they displace a whole bunch of water. These vehicles are very small, and they make them float by putting some sort of a buoyancy device, and that device might be some foam that floats. It might be a closed-up housing that's full of air will float. So air will float, and other things like steel or metal will sink. And you have this balance going on where you've got to trim the buoyancy and not make it too buoyant and also make it not too heavy. There's also, in working in the ocean, salt water and we're in fresh water here at a pool. A lot of the ocean is salt water, and the weight of salt water is a little bit different than the weight of fresh water. So something that floats in salt water may not float in the ocean. If you've ever gone swimming out in the ocean, the salt water holds you up a little bit more. You're a little bit more buoyant in salt water than you are in fresh water. So each of these things has a challenge. You also need a balance. You want the thing not only to float but you also want it to be stable. You want it to sit still, and so the weights and the buoyancy vary from being on the surface to being in the water. So when you hang it in the water, it might sit sideways. So you'll see people around the pool here hanging pieces of foam and part of the vehicle to put one side of it maybe up. Some of the students have a whole bunch of metal steel washers hung on the back because they wanted the back to be a little bit more sinking. They call it negative buoyancy. So there's trim involved. Subject like that is very important. You get these cruise ships nowadays that they're the size of giant buildings, and they're very top-heavy, and there's all kinds of tricks that they have to do to get those to sit stable in the ocean and not roll over. So the whole subject of buoyancy is an issue, and getting it trimmed right. To do its tasks, it has to be trimmed right and trimmed level. So you have all these challenges that you learn about. I was just meeting with one of the groups, talk about challenges. One of the scout groups, there was an electrical connector going into a power supply, and they were worried that the connectors could pull out, and they have electricity on them, and electricity could hurt someone. So one of the adults was actually sitting by hand and holding that connector so it couldn't be pulled out. And I went over to talk about it. I worked on a lot of ships, and you worry about things like that on ships all the time. You worry that something might fall over the deck, or electrical connector can come out. So I was telling them about, you get in the habit on working on boats to tie things around. So if you have a cable or a power cable, you find yourself twisting it around a post or a stanchion or something on the ship, so if it gets pulled on, it's going to pull on that post and not pull itself out and pull you or the equipment into the water. A lot of things you have to worry about when you work at sea.
And on mission station 1 will be the cross rips, which is to your left, as you can see on the screen. And on the right will be mission statement 2, and that will be the jelly bean chilies. So they're slowly descending their ROVs. Not sure what mission they're going to go for next. Like I mentioned earlier, they're allowed to go out of order and retrieve whatever they would like. So it seems like From the angle I am looking at, the jelly bean chilies are going for the first task, which is removing the damaged screen. And if they can get up to the surface, then they would receive 10 points. And it looks like the cross rips are also trying to go for the water samples. But as you can see, the jelly beans are slowly ascending, carefully not to drop their damaged screen. Oh, and they lost their damaged screen. So they're slowly trying to retrieve it again, going for a second attempt. It seems like they're trying to switch their angle. Oh, they're actually going for a new task. So they strategically decided to go for the the degraded rubber tires and bring it up to the surface. And because it's such a wide O-ring, it's easier to hook. So I believe that they decided to go for the easier task first. And as you can see onto close to your left, the other team has picked up 2 water samples. And they are doing task 2, which is maintaining healthy waterways. And they have officially retrieved the samples, while the other team has officially brought up the degraded rubber tires. So once each degraded rubber tire is 5 points each. So if they can successfully bring up 2, then they get a total of 10 points. And for the other team, if they are able to excuse me, if they're able to bring up the monitoring water quality samples, then they receive 10 points for collecting and another 10 points for being able to measure the temperature, as well as a breakdown of 5 points for measuring the pH of the water sample and 5 points for measuring phosphorus levels of the water sample. So I apologize for the wishy-washy of the screen. We're fixing that shortly. I think there's something wrong with the screen, Yeah. So they are both going for another mission. We'll know shortly in a moment. So it looks as if the other team is doing the third task, which is preserve history. And what they're doing is identify... excuse me, sorry, I apologize. They're actually doing the first task, which is ensuring public safety, dam inspection, and repair. And basically what they're doing is inserting grout into 4 voids underneath the dam. And they just successfully inserted 1, so they have 4 more to go to get the full 20 points. So basically the breakdown of this is that if they get 1 in one of the squares, then they get 5 points. If they get 1 in each, 1 in 2, like 1 in each of the 2 squares, they get a total of 10 points. If they get 3 out of the 4 squares, they get a total of 15, and 4 is 20. So basically, that's what they're trying to aim for right now. We are actually switched over to the other team. So they were able to do that. And the cross rips are trying to get their damaged screen up onto the surface, which will be a total of 10 points. And that is task 1 as well. And the other team, which is the Jelly Bean Chilies, have successfully put in another. Could you turn so it's yes? And have put in successfully another piece, inserted another grout. So they have a total of 3 grouts already, and if they can just get one more, then they would have a total of 4, and they'd get 20 points on top of their 10 points that they received from picking up the damaged rubber tires. Degraded rubber tires. So you can see now, if in a case if their ROV accidentally dropped 2 in one square, they do not get 10 points. That only counts as 5. So they have to have 1 in each square for it to count as 20 points. So it seems that the Jelly Bean Chili team is trying to get to their last square. Let's see if they can do this. And they have yet to drop, but I believe they're trying to figure out a perfect position to drop their. Oh. The other team is currently suspended in water, and I believe they are trying to strategically go for the rock. If they do successfully go for the rock, they will be starting task 2, maintaining healthy waterways, and that is determining habitat diversity. If they lift the rock from the bottom, they get an automatic 5 points, which as you can see they've already done. And if they can get up to the surface, which is another 10 points, which they have already done as well. And now they're in the process of identifying the different types of species on the rock. And if they can successfully do that, they will gain another 5 points. And everyone's clapping, so they have successfully done that. And the other team has also successfully is trying to place all 4 trouts into their ways. Now the other team is trying to attempt the team on the left is trying to attempt the damaged screen by returning it to the surface, which then they would gain a total of 10 points. Which then they would gain a total of 10 points. And it looks as if that the cross rip team is trying to get to the hook and slowly lifting. And it looks like they were able to get 1. Oh no. If we go to the right, we can see that the robot is trying to attempt to get the medal. Attempt task 3. which is basically preservation of history, and they are trying to identify the location of the metal cannon shells. No, actually, I apologize for that. Let me kind of say what they're doing. They're actually measuring the temperature of the water. So what this team has is a basically temperature sensor. And it looks as if they're trying to measure the temperature or drop something. And if you look to the other side, the team has something on they have successfully taken up the damaged screen, and now the next task for the left is that if they can return a new screen, they would get an additional 10 points. What are they doing next? Can we go to the left? So the team is trying to lift up the rock. The team to the left is trying to attempt. Wait, did they do that? Lifting up the rock, and they were able to. Time is up, and the teams are retrieving their ROVs, and the tallying of the points are happening. We will shortly have our next mission teams come up. To your right is the Sandwich Knights. Sorry, I apologize. To your left is the Sandwich Knights. To your right is Project Octagon. And it seems like they're trying to lift up that damaged screen. It seems as if the Sandwich Knights are trying to do the same task as well. Both tasks, if you're able to lift up the damaged screen, bring it up to the surface, is a total of 10 points. They have officially been able to move the debris covering the trash rack, which is a total of 10 points. And it seems as if Project Octagon has done the exact same thing, but it looks as if they are going actually for the water sample first. And it seems as if Project Octagon actually was able to pick up the water sample container, which is task 2. And task 2, for those of you who have missed it, is maintaining healthy waterways. And you can receive up to 90 points. And what they've gotten is that 2.1, which is up, you can receive up to 30 points, monitoring water quality. And collecting the water sample from the bottom is 10 points. Now, if they're basically, if they're able to get the 2 samples, measure their pH of the water sample, as well as measure the phosphate level of the water sample, they are rewarded 10 points. And now Project Octagon is going for the rock. And basically what the rock is also task 2. And you're allowed up to 30 points, and they're basically determining habitat diversity. 5 points for lifting the rock off the surface. As you can see, they have done that. They have done that, and they're slowly lifting it up to this, the actual dry surface, which is basically 10 points. And if they're able to use the handbook to identify the species under that rock, they get an additional 5 points. And that is a total of 20 points. To get the last 10 points, they have to have recorded the temperature, pH, phosphate, and the species on their data sheet. Getting all 4 data points, 10 points. Getting 2 to 3 data points is another 5 points. And 1 or fewer is 0 points. And look, Project Octagon was able to retrieve the rock. And on the surface, their team is counting up the species. Sandwich Knights, it looks as if they are going for their own water sample. And Project Octagon has picked up their damaged screen and is bringing it up to the surface. That's a total of 10 points. Now, just a reminder, we are on the scout side. We do have the ranger side, which I will be which we'll be going to shortly as they are setting up. And Project Octagon has officially brought up their damage screen and have received a total of 10 points. Now they can continue with the task and put back a new screen and receive another 10 points, which it looks as if they are doing that. And if they can position it correctly, drop it in the water, they will receive an additional 10 points. And currently right now, what Project Octagon is doing is task 1, which is ensuring public safety, dam inspection, and repairing. Now on this side, you have Sandwich Knights. And it looks as if they're still going for their own water sample, carefully deciding what their next move and how to be best grab their water sample. And then to the right, you have Project Octagon slowly continuing on their tasks of reinstalling the new screen. And they have dropped the new screen, but the position of the screen is not in the correct position. So they have to try to flip it upright. And we're going to quickly do a turnaround. We're going to go over to the Ranger side. Is basically the Durfee team, River Beavers, on the Ranger side. Right now, you can see their ROV in the water right over here. Yeah, so the one not at the bottom, that's our other camera observation bot, but the one that's closer to the surface of the pool, you can see that the robot is in a position and getting ready to start. And they are still, so Project Octagon, which I'm focused on right now, is still trying to install their new screen, while the other team, oh my gosh, oh, sorry. I knew I was gonna surprise a diver, is currently suspended in the water. I'm gonna turn back, see if the Ranger team has started. There's our other observation bot. Okay. All right. So as you can see, Project Octagon is still trying to install their screen, but if we go over to the Ranger side, we can see that the River Beavers are slowly descending their ROV to start their first decided task. So as they slowly move to their desired task, we're going to go back to the scout screen. And as you can see, Project Octagon is still trying to install their new screen, while Sandwich Knights are trying to grab their first screen, I believe. we can see that the ROV is slowly moving towards. This Sandwich Knights have officially been able to pick up their water sample and slowly bring it to the surface. And they're making their way slowly because they don't want to drop that sample and waste time. And yes, they have officially gotten their samples. So now that would be a total of 10 points if they can measure the samples accurately. Let's see if they'll have more better luck. Oh, look at that. Project Octagon has officially been able to replace their new screen, and Sandwich Knights following shortly behind. So we have the Ranger side on the screen currently, and it seems like the River Beavers are, oh, there goes a diver. The River Beavers are off to their first task. On the Scout side, we have a reset of On the Scout side, we have a reset of the field, and the next mission will start shortly. While on the Ranger side, the River Bears robots are slowly making their way to the first. So it looks as if from this angle, the River Bears are going for the rock. They're moving engine close towards it, so that would be my guess, but we'll find out more shortly. And we have another ROV joining. The underwater threats. So on the field currently, we have the River Bears and we have the underwater threats. So both of them are moving towards their first task. So the River Bears have, as it seems, looked as if they're moving onto the rock task, lifting up the rock. And they're strategically placing themselves in a position where they can actually lift that up. And the underwater threats are being returned to the surface. It looks as if their ROV flipped over. So the ROV is currently descending and hopefully on to their first task. So they're slowly dropping their object in the designated area, and they will gain points for that. So the team is slowly bringing their ROV back. So the ROV is slowly descending back into the water and going next to complete their next desired task. Slowly moving downwards. And the reason why we have divers around is obviously to reset the field, but also if a team needs help retrieving their ROVs, they're already there to help. There's already another ROV down at the bottom, and they are attempting their first one of their tasks. I can't tell. See if you can try to go closer without actually hitting them. Move over that way. Not in the area. And one of the ROVs is one of the ROVs looks like as if they're trying to grab the rock, which is from task 2, and it's kind of making sure habitat and diversity are secure. And it seems it was a miss.
The MATE program is about 15 years old. It started in Monterey Bay in California, a small group of people, and it started out as a small robotics competition where students build remote operated vehicles. These are things that go in the water. Here we're just at a pool, but typically they would be in the ocean or in a lake or a river. And there's all kinds of these things. They've been built for many years, and they're getting more sophisticated all the time. So the MATE program, hundreds, even thousands of students have gone through it over the years. We start out with a regional competition that's around the world where there'll be a local place. So there's some going on this weekend in many locations. And this is the local one. It's near where I live, so I'm down here. But it's a competition. The students and their vehicles go through all kinds of rigorous testing. First there's a tremendous emphasis on what they're doing on safety. If you're working near the water or working on a boat, safety is primary. It's very, very important. So the kids and the teachers they're given lectures about safety. And when you're working near the water, especially salt water, I've been at sea all over the world, many ships of all sizes, and you gotta be careful. There's high voltages, there's electricity, there's things you can trip on. You can fall in the water, you can trip on a cable. And so the students are first taught from day one, these things have to be safe. They can't have sharp edges, they can't have electricity sticking out where you can put your finger in. You can't have a propeller or a thruster that you stick your finger in. And so they're grilled about this, and when they get to the competition, they have to do a safety check there, and so they go up to a desk, and there's judges who look at their vehicle and check it out with an eagle eye and determine is there anything wrong. If there is, they have to either fix it or take care of it. So that itself is quite a challenge, and So safety comes first, and then there's been a whole bunch of specs that are written up. Each year, the people who organize the MATE competition have a specification. They come up with a task that might be a real-world test that a vehicle has to do, and each year they're in a different location. They'll try to steer the goal towards what might be happening in an area. For instance, we've been several times at the Houston neutral buoyancy tank, so they'll make up scenarios that are related to NASA, related to a space capsule or a rocket ship. And last year we were in Seattle near Boeing, and so there were things related to a downed aircraft where students had to, we'd make up a model, and the model is usually a very clever setup with pipes and rods and boxes, and these are to simulate what an airplane sitting on the bottom might be, or some other target might be. And so the students are given a challenge to do something in this area. They have to, let's say it's a target, they have to identify it, they have to measure it, they have to locate it, they might have to draw some oil out of it, or they might have to count some crabs, some imaginary crabs that are lying around the vehicle. They might have to clean up the area where it's working. They might have to make some measurements of the device. So they're given a whole long assignment, and their vehicle is dedicated to these tasks. This coming year, after this regional competition, the winners of the regional competitions go to an international, national and international competition. And we've had these all over the place. We've had them in Seattle, we've had them in Houston, we've had them at MIT here in Cambridge, we've had them in Newfoundland at Memorial University in Newfoundland. We've been at NASA several times. And this year we're going to Tennessee. We have a new venue, and each place has its own flavor. They typically have their own pool. Often it'll be an Olympic-sized pool. NASA has a huge tank that we work in called the neutral buoyancy tank. And when we go there, they actually have pieces of the International Space Station that are they're right there while our vehicles go by these things from the space program. So a lot of excitement involved with this program.